Throughout time, we have witnessed many tag teams or stables including members of the Anoa'i family. The Wild Samoans, the Usos and the Bloodline are main examples of this. Other members of the family have been featured in other factions and teams as well. One of those teams I wanted to look at is the duo known in the WWE as 3 Minute Warning, a team that debuted in 2002 and acted initially as enforcers for Raw General Manager Eric Bischoff, who would cue the team's surprise entrances by uttering the phrase 3 minutes or something to that effect, and the two men would destroy anyone in the ring that Bischoff seemed inferior or just boring. So let's dive in and look back at 3 Minute Warning and see the things the duo got up to on television. Three Minute Warning consisted of cousins Matthew Anoa'i, who was known as Rosey in WWE, and Edward Fatu, who worked under the name Jamal. The latter would be more known for his run as Umaga between 2006 and 2009. 2001 was when the duo arrived in WWE, where the two men worked under the team name The Island Boys. They worked in Heartland's Wrestling Association, which was a WWE associated development organisation, and the duo still worked bouts for Heartland's Wrestling Association up until mid-2002. Raw's July 22nd, 2002 episode would see the debut of Rosey and Jamal. Eric Bischoff had booked a match between D'Lo Brown and Shawn Stasiak, and Eric told both men that they had just 3 minutes to put on a good performance in the squared circle. During the contest, the camera cut to Eric Bischoff continuously checking his watch. When Stasiak had Brown in an arm hold, Bischoff was eventually unimpressed with what he was seeing, and he counted down the time, even though the match had only gone on for about a minute only. When Eric counted to 3, 2, 1, Rosey and Jamal would emerge from the crowd and ambush both Brown and Stasiak with lots of manoeuvres. After the damage was done, the two men left the ring to end everything. In their debut, Rosey and Jamal were not referred to by their eventual team name just yet. Following their debut, over the next few weeks of Monday Night Raw, the gimmick went on, with Eric Bischoff giving those who were in the ring 3 minutes to entertain him, otherwise they would fall victim to Rosey and Jamal. Some names who fell victim to these attacks included Lillian Garcia, Jimmy Superfly Snuka, and Jeff Hardy. The attack on Jeff Hardy was a result of Eric Bischoff believing that Jeff was defecting to SmackDown, and after Rosey and Jamal had finished their destruction on Jeff Hardy, Crash Holly, who was supposed to face Jeff in a match, told Bischoff that he was the one going to SmackDown and not Jeff. When Crash left, Eric looked on with a shocked and somewhat regretful look on his face for what he had done to Jeff Hardy. SmackDown's September 12, 2002 episode featured a bit of a memorable segment. On the show, a commitment ceremony was held for the team of Billy and Chuck, and when the two men backed off and cleared up some confusion regarding how they were as a team, the minister in the ring said some things and his sentence ended with the words 3 minutes. The minister's voice suddenly changed to a familiar one, and he said,
"Did I just hear myself say 3 minutes?"
And of course, it was Eric Bischoff in disguise, as Stephanie McMahon looked at him completely shocked. Rico, who was the manager figure of Billy and Chuck, then betrayed the duo, and when Chuck got his hands on Rico, Rosey and Jamal emerged and ambushed both men, whilst Eric Bischoff held Stephanie back in the corner. Following more attacks on Billy and Chuck, followed by a Samoan drop to Stephanie, the segment ended when Jamal was about to nail a diving splash on Stephanie, but then they were forced to flee through the crowd after Rey Mysterio, Edge and John Cena ran down and chased on after them. The invasion of Eric Bischoff, Rosey and Jamal on SmackDown would lead to a tag team match taking place at Unforgiven, where Rosey and Jamal would take on Billy and Chuck. And also, this match at Unforgiven served as Rosey and Jamal's debut match in WWE. At Unforgiven, Rosey and Jamal did battle with Billy and Chuck, and when the duo, along with Rico, entered the ring, they were still not referred to by their eventual team name. Briefly, what happened in the match was once the teams were in the ring, they brawled to start things off. Rosey and Jamal dominated the first couple of minutes, mainly taking out Chuck. Their dominance halted once Chuck moved out of a diving moonsault by Rosey, which left Chuck free to tag Billy in. After a brief time taking control of the bout, Billy grabbed Jamal and Rosey and banged their heads together, but the two men no-sold it and they both gave Billy a headbutt. Jamal went for a diving splash, but Chuck ran in and pulled Jamal off the top rope. Billy nailed the Famouser on Jamal, but Rico then ran in for a distraction, but he ended up getting clotheslined and tossed over the top rope by Billy. And the match ended when Jamal nailed a Samoan drop on Billy for the victory. It was some time after Unforgiven that the team would eventually be referred to by the name 3 Minute Warning, and they would also use the song 3 Minutes by Too Skinny J for their entrance. And according to the band's guitarist Lance Rockworthy, Too Skinny J were not given any payments by WWE for the usage of their song. By November, 3 Minute Warning would then turn their attention on Jeff Hardy and the Dudley Boys, consisting of Bubba Ray and Spike Dudley, as Devon Dudley was working on SmackDown doing the Reverend Devon gimmick at the time. Rosey and Jamal would score victories in tag team bouts against Jeff Hardy and the Dudleys in the weeks leading up to the 2002 Survivor Series, one of my favourite pay-per-views ever. Eventually, a match was made for that pay-per-view, 3 Minute Warning along with Rico against the Dudleys and Jeff Hardy, and it would be contested in a 6-man elimination tables match. At Survivor Series, the tables match opened up the show inside Madison Square Garden. Jeff and the Dudleys got the upper hand early, but once the tables were brought in, Rosey and Jamal were dominant. Rosey attempted a running splash to Spike Dudley, but Spike moved and Rosey went through the table, but that obviously didn't count as an elimination. When Spike attempted a Dudley dog on Rico, Jamal and Rosey got hold of him and the two men hit a double flapjack on Spike through the table, which led to Spike getting eliminated. A little later into the match, Jeff Hardy and Rosey began fighting into the crowd. Bubba Ray Dudley then laid out a table outside an entranceway as Jeff climbed to the top. Bubba Ray then laid Rosey onto the table and Jeff nailed a swanton off the entranceway, thus eliminating Rosey from the match. Sometime after that, Jeff Hardy brawled with Jamal on the outside, and after tossing a table on him, Jeff started to run along the top of the barricade towards Jamal, but Jamal lifted the table and Jeff went through it. Jamal then laid out another table and put Hardy on top, and Jeff would be next to go following a diving splash by Jamal. So Bubba Ray Dudley was all alone against Jamal and Rico. Whilst attempting a splash to Rico, Jamal stopped Bubba Ray in his tracks. Jamal then climbed up, and whilst posing to the crowd, Bubba Ray grabbed hold of him and hit a top rope powerbomb through the table to eliminate Jamal. Rico then grabbed another table as Rosey, despite being eliminated earlier, attacked Bubba Ray as Rico set the table up. Jamal re-emerged, and as the trio set Bubba Ray up in the corner for a running splash, Devon Dudley from SmackDown ran down to assist Bubba Ray Dudley. After taking care of Rosey and Jamal, Devon and Bubba Ray nailed the 3D on Rico and gave the win to Bubba Ray Dudley. This would lead to Devon Dudley reuniting the actual Dudley Boys team on Raw with Bubba Ray. 3 Minute Warning would continue to face the Dudleys on weekly television with Jeff Hardy removed from the feud. The night after Survivor Series, 3 Minute Warning and Rico faced Bubba Ray, Devon and Spike Dudley in a normal 6-man tag team match, which they came up short. 2 weeks later, Rosey and Jamal faced Bubba Ray and Devon in a normal tag team bout and lost again. On Raw's December 9th, 2002 episode, Rosey and Jamal faced Kane in a handicap match, and this led to a brief series of bouts which would include Kane forming a tag team with Rob Van Dam. The following week, Kane and RVD faced 3 Minute Warning, who teamed up with Batista in another handicap match. And then Rosey and Jamal faced RVD and Kane once more, where they lost a tag team match. Both Jamal and Rosey would participate in the 2003 Royal Rumble match. Rosey entered at number 16 and would get eliminated by Kane, while Jamal entered at number 21 and he would get eliminated by The Undertaker. It was more or less from the beginning of 2003, or probably a bit before that 3-minute warning pretty much went to lower card status. They would mostly have bouts on Sunday Night Heat and on Raw on an occasion, and as the months passed, the duo had fewer matches on screen. On Chris Jericho's highlight reel, he was interviewing Bill Goldberg, and after telling him that nobody in WWE wanted to see Goldberg there, a few wrestlers came out, including 3-minute warning, and they were among those who wanted Goldberg to go away. After spearing Steven Richards, 3-minute warning along with Victoria looked on. Later that night, Rosey and Jamal interfered in a match between Booker T and Christian. Once Booker T was down on the mat, Goldberg ran down for the save and he took out 3-minute warning and Rico with a spear to Rico, then a jackhammer to Jamal, and finished everything with a spear to Rosey through the barricade. 1 week later, Goldberg was to face Christian one-on-one, but before the bout could get underway, 3-minute warning showed up and Rico said that he hadn't forgotten what Goldberg did to them the week prior. He then said that before Christian could do any damage to Goldberg, they will get some payback first. One by one, the three of them got in the ring and Goldberg got the upper hand initially, but of course the numbers game took over. But that was short as Goldberg regained the upper hand again and nailed the jackhammer on Rico. But strangely, Goldberg pinned Rico and the referee counted to 3, even though the opening bell hadn't rung and it wasn't even advertised for Goldberg to face the trio in a match on that night. So I suppose it was technically a sanctioned match between Goldberg and 3-minute warning, but I don't know, it's a bit confusing. On Raw's May 19th episode, 3-minute warning faced the Dudley Boys in what would be the final time that the two teams met, and they came up short in that contest. Following the match, Rico entered the ring and angrily said that he had had enough of the two and that he was leaving them for good. Jamal and Rosey had their final match on TV on Sunday Night Heat where they took on Maven and Tommy Dreamer, which they lost. By June, Jamal would end up getting released from his WWE contract due to getting into a bar fight, and this of course led to 3-minute warning disbanding, with Rosey re-emerging with a superhero gimmick where he formed a tag team with the Hurricane. As for Jamal, he would eventually return to WWE in 2006 as the Samoan Bulldozer Umaga. Three-minute warning, I feel, definitely comes across as a likely forgotten tag team in WWE. While their televised run lasted for just under a year, they probably had some memorable moments. For me, when I look back at the team, I think of their tables bout at the 2002 Survivor Series, as I feel that was their memorable match. While in today's landscape we have the Bloodline dominating SmackDown, 3-minute warning you could say was an earlier format of the faction, given that they were dominant in numbers games. And I do feel the duo deserve more recognition in WWE, even though again they were only around for under a year on WWE programming. And now it's time to finish for today. I'll see you all again soon for the next video. Take care everyone, and bye for now.